Well, welcome everybody to the Twisted Talk podcast, where we talk all things horror, sci-fi, and fantasy brick filming, of course. Today I'm joined by Chris Salaises. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, you did.
Perfect. He's the creator of the ongoing brick film series Minilife TV, which currently has 75 episodes, not to mention the Minilife Chronicles, as well as a movie that is still in the works, I believe. Is that right?
Yep. Working on it for a while now.
Perfect. So before I definitely want to talk about that film, but before we go into that, just for people who may not be as familiar, or maybe even people who are fans of your work, could you just say a little bit about kind of, I guess, your brick filming journey, how you got into it, and how it unfolded for you?
Let's see. Brick filming journey. That started a long time ago. It was way back when Lego came out with that. Do you know the Lego Studios?
Oh yeah, I never had it myself, but I remember
Yeah.
wanting it profoundly.
Yeah. So when that came out, that was like the only thing I wanted for my birthday that year. So my parents got it for me, and yeah, that's basically like what taught me brick filming, animation, all that. Started with that little grainy camera, and and then yeah, I just kind of kept up with it off and on uh, while I was growing up, and then when I got to college, and this sort of pertains to like what the film that I'm writing is about, because it's sort of about my character's college years. But basically, when I got to college, I was going for like film, but when like my first year there, I couldn't sign up for any of the classes that I wanted to, because like they were all taken by the upperclassmen, because they have like first pick. So I was just left with all the like the standard GE stuff, English, math, all that stuff. But I was like eager to make something, because like that's that's what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Um, and then I remembered how I always enjoyed brick filming, and at the same time I was watching Dave Pickett's Nightly News at 9 series, and I was really taken by just like the sort of fun atmosphere and world that he created, and I thought it was really cool. But then there was also just like a few episodes, so it got me thinking like it would be cool if somebody could do like a weekly Lego series. Um, and yeah, that's how I came up with the idea for to do Minilife.
Yeah. So you started. So how old were you when you started Minilife?
I was 19. Yeah, because this is our 10th year. I'm 29 now, so
Right on.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's and did David Pickett make a cameo on Mini Life? I know that you have some of his characters from Nightly News at 9 in a couple
yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah. We've had Phil and Sherry and Malefios, who he voices, and yeah, he was actually the first brick filmer that we collaborated with, and yeah, it was a big deal to me, because it was our 7th episode, and he agreed to, he not only voiced Phil from his series, but to be able for him to let me use one of his characters was
Yeah.
cool.
Oh,
So yeah, I'd say Mini Life owes a lot to Dave Pickett and the Nightly News at 9.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. It was really neat to see that kind of that cameo so early in the show too. I've been rewatching the entire show, and it's so incredible to watch. I mean, just the growth of the show. It seemed like the first few seasons were really more character driven and kind of scenario based. But I think it was like in the third and fourth season, especially the fourth season, it gets a lot more plot driven. And it's just, I don't know, it just levels up in so many aspects in that fourth season. Fourth and fifth, it gets so much tighter. And just the lore, the universe there, you start to, I guess the viewer gets more familiar with like the established rules of the universe, learning about like Snowball and the vampires and all that stuff. And it's like the entire mood kind of shifted slightly. It was really awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's been I mean, yeah, anyone who watches Mini Life can see that it's been kind of a whole learning experience for me, because it gets better. The animation quality goes up because I've learned more. Um, but not even with just the animation, it's also been a great teacher for like writing and stuff. And yeah, the first few seasons were just kind of me and Ian making stuff up just to try to, just like having fun, making each other laugh. And then around the time when I was doing the third season, I started to realize like, oh, I need to take some time and actually like establish the rules of my world and stuff. Because when we started, like I didn't even know if this was this taking place on Earth? Was
Yep.
this America? Yeah, I think it's in the second episode. Ian, he gives a little speech, and the American flag goes up behind him, and
Yeah.
that's no longer canon because
Oh
there's no
yeah.
America.
Yeah, I know all about the kind of retroactively decanonizing things. I had very similar experience with my whole, cinematic Lego universe. It started off as just basically having fun with some friends who were voice actors and just making a kind of fun, dramatic story. And then it goes on and you get fans, and then you realize I actually have to like set some ground rules for where this thing is gonna go and what happened technically in the past and what is canon and what isn't. And that can be a little, sometimes you shoot yourself in the foot and you don't find out until 5 years later, but you do what you can to make up for it.
Yeah, it's funny doing like a sort of dance of like trying to keep the continuity going, but then also sometimes just recognizing like yeah, I just gotta ignore this because
Yeah.
it's just something that you weren't thinking about back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I would say yeah, all the weird stuff we came up with, like that we were just making up without thinking about, is what established the Minilife world and made it the weird, like quirky world that it is. Because I basically looked at everything we made in the first three seasons and I was like, okay, what kind of world is this with all this? Like
Mhm.
Snowball, for example. In one of our first episodes, we it's just a segment on the show where we show like how to cook a vampire.
Mhm.
But I was thinking like, what is this society where people are just making vampires?
Yeah.
And so I it kind of led me to this sort of like dark idea of like, oh, they make them to be like their servants.
Yeah. No, it was definitely, I mean, I really enjoyed in the third season. You kind of scratch the surface of some particularly dark themes. One being, of course, slavery, basically with the vampires or
Yeah,
servants, I guess. But another one was I really enjoyed. I loved. I think it's in the fourth season where you have that entire like martial arts tournament.
yeah,
And I mean, it's so anime like. It's just an absolute blast. In fact, I think I've seen very similar plots in multiple animes where there's a big tournament and it kind of several episodes follow it.
yeah. Well, I mean, we're huge fans of Dragon Ball Z, especially me and my friend Abel, who he voices Abel.
Oh yeah, nice.
so so yeah, that was sort of me wanting to do like a big Dragon Ball type tournament, and really that was also my first time, trying to do like a whole like story arc,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was the most fun that I've had making a season, because it was
Hmm.
it was like the first time dipping into anime, and it's weird because like I didn't realize at the time that that was like really the style I wanted to go for, like what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And then after like later, like after season 5 and then like starting Mini Life Chronicles, I started to realize like every time I'm watching anime, I always think like I want to do that. Like I see a cool
Yeah.
sequence and I'm like, I want to do that. And then it finally hit me like, oh yeah, because this is like my style that I want to do.
Yeah.
So
And it actually works really well with Lego. It's almost like a little cartoony. And I mean, you just think about what goes into, like anime dialogue, for example.
yeah,
It's not like crazy mouth shapes, but there's enough to show, okay, somebody is talking right now, and there's facial expressions. And I feel like
yeah,
that translates well. You do. it was really interesting watching the face swapping animation for the first half or so of season 5, but then you kind of switch back to your original method, and
It just took too long. That
I
yeah,
can't imagine. I cannot imagine.
yeah. I was. It's a bit embarrassing because like it's a style change for the first few episodes of that season, and then I had to switch to digital. But
Hmm.
personally, I think digital is better now because the technology is there where you can make it look like a real Lego face,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
yeah, I've been trying to hone in and like adjust that even better to where like now I just film with the Lego eyes, and then the mouth is and the eyebrows usually are all digital.
Yeah. I
Um,
remember I was recently rewatching your interview with World on the World of Brick Films podcast, and you were talking a little bit about that. And that's a pretty brilliant way to do it, because to have to animate the entire face every time would probably get exhausting, but I imagine a mouth is much more manageable.
yeah, well, it was mostly because I was still very new to like digital stuff, and I'm still trying, like I really want to learn Blender. I
Hmm.
really need to get into like that seems like the next step, but I'm it's like a big thing to learn. But yeah, because I had seen some brick films where people did digital faces, and it it is kind of funny. It's like in films, like when they have a all digital person, and it's that uncanny valley where it just doesn't look
Hmm.
quite right. And sometimes, like, I don't know, it comes down to the eyes for me. Like you can kind of tell if it's like a CGI Lego face.
Hmm.
So I realized like as long as they have the eyes, that's kind of like a good selling point.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
and then I also realized like I was looking at all the I was looking at all the figures, and I was like, everyone has the same eyes. It's just like if you really erase them,
Yeah.
everyone has the same eyes. So then I realized like, yeah, I could definitely have some fun with that.
Yeah. No, that's
And
the mouth animation, I commend you for it. I know we talked about this last time. It's something that I just have not, I can't imagine like taking that extra time to do that in post. Especially, I mean, you do so many VFX as it is, and like again, even from the first season of Minilife, you were really good at visual gags and just kind of, I don't know, it seemed like you were very good at compositing and all that, and the special effects pretty early on, and of course you just improved. And I feel like it was almost like the animation quality almost was like catching up to your VFX talent in a way, because we were already so advanced from that right away. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that was like struck me at least.
well, I mean, that's very nice to hear. I mean, when I look back at the old seasons, I cringe at my my lack of skill in at that level.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it was always like I had these ideas that it was difficult to put forward because I wasn't skilled enough yet.
Hmm.
And that's honestly kind of why the movie is taking so long. I've known I wanted to do movies since I started Minilife, and but I knew when I was starting that I was not skilled enough. I needed to become a better animator, better writer, better actor, everything.
Hmm.
And so I looked to Minilife doing the series as kind of like my training grounds.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's sort of my public training grounds. You could see it, and
Yeah.
you see it gradually get better. And yeah, and honestly, I feel like I just barely realized like the style I want to go for, which sounds weird because there's so much of Minilife. There's 5 seasons, but I feel like I was still like figuring things out
Yeah.
while I was doing it. Especially, I'll admit, in the 5th season, I was kind of lost after season 4, doing all that fun anime stuff. I was kind of lost of like where to go and like what to do because I knew that next was going to be the movie that I wanted to do, but I felt like I wasn't quite skilled enough yet. So I needed a season, like sort of an in between season, like a transitional season.
Mm.
But yeah, I didn't know what to do because to me, like this is before I realized like you could have like the fun sort of quirky anime stuff without action sequences. Like, you could just have
Yeah.
it be goofy. And for some reason I didn't realize, or I guess, yeah, it just like wasn't fully in my head yet. And so with Abel and Master Quoker gone, because I couldn't have them be around all the time because my friend Abel lives in Texas. So
Mm.
it's kind of a special thing whenever he's able to record. But with them gone, and then at the end of season 4, Chris and Ian also lose their studio because Baby Crotch Trash destroys it.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, they kind of, it was kind of a weird reflective season, and I've some of our fans have even said it as like it's the sad season of Mini Life because
Gas leak season.
yeah, there is a bit of like a serious tone in it compared to like everything else. And I think it was just me trying to figure out like where I wanted to go. And
Mm-hmm.
then the thing that changed everything for me was when Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out. And
Mm.
that just like it like shook me when I saw it. It like opened my eyes to like what you could do. Like I think because we've been seeing like all these like Pixar movies that all kind of look the same, and then
Mm.
Spider-Man comes out,
Breaks
and
all
it's
the
just,
rules.
yeah, it just like, I don't know, it reminded me that like, oh yeah, you can do anything like with anime, like you can go with any kind of style you want to go with. And
Mm.
then I started to think like yeah, I've always really wanted to do like more of an anime type thing. So then that's why I did Mini Life Chronicles, because I knew I wanted to sort of play with this a bit before I started on the movie. And then so yeah, that's why Melvin the Ninja was the first one for Mini Life Chronicles, because it was a good way to sort of get back into like doing some anime fighting, and then also just playing around and being really like dramatic with the poses and really goofy and stuff.
Yeah. No, I was so amazed when the Chronicles started coming out. It was like the quality went from like season 5 even to the Chronicles was like going from 720p to 1080p. I mean, it was in like, oh my gosh. I just like a few of my favorite, there are a few kind of running gags in Mini Life that just literally make me laugh every single time. One of them is Program Coordinator. He's
Yeah.
just such an absurd character. But I don't know. He's just so likable. Well, him and shoot, what's the guy who he's always following?
Wilkins.
Wilkins. Yeah, they're so funny. And there's also a scene. There's just so many things. This is all pretty fresh in my mind because I've been kind of. It's a lot of content, so I've been kind of cramming it up the last second. But the scene where it's either Chris or Ian mocks Wilkins, and suddenly like they take on Wilkins' appearance for a moment, like they have his
Oh yeah,
hairpiece and
yeah,
everything. And
yeah.
I
That
was
was
like,
Ian in season 5. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, that's freaking funny. But even I remember I haven't watched the Program Coordinator for a while now, but or like the Chronicles one. But I remember I think it's in that one where like a cell phone rings and it's got these like the symbols or like these kind of exclamation points as the cell phone is ringing, which is like it just looked great, and very, that extra touch that you typically would see in like drawn animation, but you really don't see in stop motion that often.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's I mean, the details, yeah, are very important to me, because that's like, so what makes up the world. It's like in Star Wars, when you're watching Star Wars, you just love to kind of look around and like see the
Mm-hmm.
environment. And so that's always been very inspiring to me. And yeah, and now that like I am sort of dipping my toes in CGI and stuff, I feel like I'm really being able to show the world of Mini Life the way I've always pictured it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited for the movie, like doing the movie. And I feel like it's gonna really, people are gonna see the version of Mini Life that I've always like had in my head,
Yeah.
but wasn't able to like fully show.
Yeah. Amen to that. It really resonates with me because I'm of course working on the Void War Gray Horizons, and it's like, I'm sure it's similar for you, but I think about it every day and like just doing random tasks throughout my life. I think I've had like kind of a daydreaming problem. But now I just like whenever I don't actually need to be focused on something, I just kind of like be picturing this in my head. what is the depth of the universe, the characters, the the atmosphere, the mood, and the feelings I like want viewers to have evoked. And this entire movie making process is an extremely slow unfolding of what's in here to what we can project on a screen, and like kind of as one cohesive experience. And it's clear, obviously, your passion with Minilife TV, and that is what you have been doing, and what you are doing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, just like we have these ideas in your head, and I mean I think it's that way with like every artist. You have something in your head, you just got to get it out. It's
Yeah,
like it's not for any like particular reason. You just sort of, it's sort of like just what you got to do.
yeah,
And then if people like it, that's great, and if they don't, then it doesn't really matter, because I feel like, at least for me, it's probably for you too, like once you finish something, you're kind of like past it. You're like, it's really weird, like you work on something for so long and then it's done and you're like, well, that was fun, I want to move on to the next thing now.
yeah. It's funny you say that. I feel like it's been so long since I actually finished anything, since I've been working on this movie for like basically 2 years, 3 years. I feel like I've forgotten what that feels like. But I definitely remember, finishing like season two or the second movie of mine. It was like, oh, it felt so satisfying. But of course, it's like I had this feeling that, okay, well, now the legwork is done, the bedrock has been set. Now we can really get into gear and create the actual product. And so what you're saying about Minilife being kind of a almost like preparation for the real thing, I definitely feel that.
Yeah, in a weird way, I feel like i'm just I'm like actually starting now. Like it's really,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fitting that the Mini Life movie is a prequel and it's about Chris and Ian meeting and starting and everything, because it feels very much like that for me. Like everything still feels fresh and new to me, and like I know that there's like so much more to learn, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like excited to get into it.
Yeah. So I'm curious with the movie is I think last time we spoke, which was I think it was well over a year ago. My
Yeah,
timeline is since COVID started, my timeline is very messed up and confused. But
yeah.
uh, I don't think you had started animation at that point. Are you in the animation phase currently, or where are you kind of in the movie production?
No, I'm actually doing a last final rewrite of the film,
Gotcha.
because I've just been like looking at it over and over again, because I just wanted to make sure the story was like strong, and also it was interesting because I had written it a while ago and I was kind of like working on it here and there in between Mini Life Chronicles.
Mm,
But when I did the last one, the student and the master, um, I really sort of set the movie aside to focus on that. So when it was done and I finally came back to the movie, it was good, because I was able to read the script with fresh eyes and sort of like see it like an audience would see it. And I started to
mhm.
see a lot of things that are like, oh, you know what? This is I feel like I feel like it's not as clear to the audience as it is in my head of like why things are happening or what's happening.
Mm,
And also the script was very long, too long. And and I saw this, I happened to see this video on I think it was Twitter or TikTok of Taika Waititi talking about his writing process, and he's like one of my favorite directors.
mhm,
But he was talking about like how he writes a script and then he like puts it away for a few months or even years, and then he comes back to it, and he's like, who wrote this, and then he throws it out and then he rewrites it with only the important parts that he can remember. So I've been spending this last month doing that, rewriting the film with just the important parts that I can remember. And so far, I've been having a lot of fun, and I feel like I'm Well, I mean, I'm definitely, it's definitely working because as I've been going, I've been comparing the old draft, and I've already cut 20 pages. So I'm already like,
Oh, dang.
that's basically like 20 minutes.
Hmm.
So I'm very hopeful that I can get it to like an hour and 45, maybe 2 hours. I would be
Hmm.
fine with that. I don't want it to go over 2 hours.
Yeah, that's yeah, fair enough.
But,
Um,
but yeah, it's and I think also one of the reasons I wanted to look back is I realized that the the tone was kind of a bit all over the place, very similar to the Minilife series.
hmm.
Because I've like I said, I've just been trying to figure out what I want to do, style wise, tone wise, and I have been watching a lot of the old Pokemon anime because
Mm,
I grew up with that, and I've been watching that along with the new Pokemon anime because I still like to keep up with it.
yeah.
I started watching it mostly just to like study the animation, but I was intrigued when I realized like I used to enjoy the first few seasons so much, and I was like it can't just be a nostalgic thing. I feel like there's something more here, and um and like I kept watching back and forth between like old episodes and new episodes, and I realized that the the old Pokemon show used to be very funny. It was very quirky and weird, and the characters were all like very sarcastic,
Yeah.
and that's what it made me laugh, and like it still makes me laugh today. And the new show or the new direction they have with the show is very uh it's sort of very like nice, and everyone's very nice to each other, which is good. I mean, it's a kid show, but I very much like the old like sarcastic
Yeah. It's missing an edge.
like Ash and Misty and Brock. They were always like bagging on each other,
Yeah. I
and
remember I remember a scene and I think I saw it as a meme later in life, but it just makes me laugh so much. I think Brock has like a pan, like some
oh
kind of
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and he's like it doubles as a hat, and he just looks like such a doofus, but it just strikes a chord.
yeah. But I was watching that, I realized like that's what I want to go for. I want to go for quirky 90s anime style.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of been my approach, and that's what I'm going to be doing moving forward. And and yeah, I guess that's kind of like the most I can say about the movie, just like the tone that I'm going for
Yeah.
without giving anything away.
Yeah, well, that's very exciting. And it's kind of funny. I know this is the Twisted Talk podcast for all things horror, sci-fi, and all this, but I still had to have you on because just the fact that you're, working on a feature film, brick film, is just something that is so fascinating to me, and I'm intimately aware of what that process looks like. But it's the style you're going for, that kind of 90s anime. It's so fitting for Lego when it's done well, I would say, because Lego is this kind of goofy kids toy at its core. And it was going to actually, this is kind of going back to something we talked about earlier about how, when you started Main Life TV, you started it off with all these like this kind of goofy premise and characters, and oh, we can make vampires in the kitchen and all this stuff. And that's one of the things I like about it is that um, it started off with that goofiness, and then you just instead of like taking it a more realistic direction, you just committed to it completely, and you have these recurring characters like Baby Crotch Rash. I think is like missing from an entire season and then comes back for revenge, and it
Yeah.
works. It's so fun because it does kind of feel like a child's animation kind of running wild and just running and running and running until it leads to its logical or illogical conclusions. But it just I think it works really well. And that's kind of been like for me working on the Void War. I kind of took the opposite direction where it's this harsh realism with the occasional humor, just like dark abstraction. And I love it. It's the universe I wanted to create. But I'm glad that people are occupying both spaces, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's good for there to be like different genres of brick films.
Hmm.
Just like, every other type of media. Yeah, it's like whatever you're in the mood for.
Yeah.
And of course, like it comes back to the creator. Horror is your thing, then that's what you got to do. Yeah.
I've kind
Like,
of, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, like, did you see the new Doctor Strange movie?
Of course.
Yeah, that one I loved. I loved, like, it just has like Sam Raimi's like print all over it.
Mm.
And like I'm assuming you're probably like a fan of the Evil Dead series, right?
Yeah, I've seen actually. So I watched all of Ash versus Evil Dead with my dad when I was kind of like back home for the summers, and we had a ton of fun with that bizarre show. So bizarre and so weird. I've actually only seen, as far as the movies go, I've seen the first one and the last one, the Evil Dead, like the medieval time travel one, and
Yeah.
those are like night and day with like the mood. But I
Yeah,
still haven't seen the sequel.
oh yeah, I haven't seen the show. But yeah, one Halloween, me and my friends, we watched the whole Evil Dead trilogy, and
Dang.
those are some of the wildest films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting because it's definitely horror. There's lots of like horrific imagery,
Yeah.
but also there's this weird like underlying comedy with all of it. That's
Yeah.
just like so Sam Raimi. And yeah, that it's very. I like how you can have a horror film, but then again, like all horror films, like a lot of them do have like comedy in them too.
Yeah. It's funny for me personally because there are some there are some flavors of dark comedy that really rub me the wrong way. And I it's kind of hard to explain, but where it kind of makes me feel gross. Like, ooh, I don't really want to laugh at that. Like this person is getting tortured. It's like, I don't know about that. But then sometimes it works so well. Like I feel like Evil Dead 3. What is the name of that movie again? Evil Dead 3.
Oh, I think, is it Army of
Army
Darkness?
of Darkness. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that one was a ton of fun, and that sometimes it's done well.
yeah,
And when I think about it, like my first my first season of the Lego Zombie Apocalypse really was horror comedy, just in a very weird way. But yeah, it's an interesting genre for sure.
yeah. Bruce Campbell is great
Oh my
in
god.
that movie, and yeah, the way he fights himself, and then the whole like skeleton army, and yeah, it's also just very, when you see the first Evil Dead, you do not expect it to go end up with time travel and
No.
like into medieval times and stuff.
Yeah. You really need to watch Ash versus Evil, or yeah, I think it's Ash versus Evil Dead, because I mean, that it just takes the most bizarre directions. And Bruce Campbell is so fun to watch. He's such a great protagonist.
Is it still going? Is that series still going?
Nope. No, they wrapped it up actually. And thank goodness, that it has a kind of concise ending, kind of like leads. I don't think they continued it. The last episode leads into like, this is the new world and this is what the future is like. And whoa. And it looks like it could set up into a bizarre new season, but at the same time, it kind of feels like it closes things up. So
Yeah, I'll have to, maybe around like Halloween.
there you go.
I'll binge this whole season. Seems like
That's
a good
fun.
thing to do.
Yeah. But I guess back to brick filming in particular. Um, well, maybe just filmmaking in general. I was curious about, you have so much content with Minilife TV. Have you ever like taken the time to measure how many minutes or hours of footage there are from with all the seasons?
I did once. It is a lot. It's a few hours.
Yeah. I was curious about like just your writing process. Like there's so much stuff that happens. And I was curious, like, did you ever have struggles with like writer's block? I know you mentioned season 5, you were kind of weren't sure which direction you were going
Yeah.
to take. Would you write a whole season at a time or just one episode at a time?
Well, in the first few seasons, in the first 3 seasons, me and Ian wrote episodes. We both wrote episodes. Or sometimes like one of us would write half an episode and then send it to the other one and be like here, did you finish it?
Mm.
um, which was always a fun collaboration. Um, and then I kind of took the reins in season 4 because it was like a long story arc. Um, but yeah, I always when writing, well, every time like I'm writing something, I send it to Ian and get his take on it,
Hmm.
and usually he's like into all the direction. Most of his notes are just like jokes of like, oh, I think it would be funny if we put something in here. Um, but yeah, actually the writing the film, and this is another reason why it's been taking so long, is I really had to sort of learn how to properly approach writing because like this is my first feature length film, and I want it to make sense, and like I want it to be a good self-contained story,
Hmm.
especially since it's a prequel. This is you should be able to jump into it without knowing what Minilife is,
Hmm.
and um and also like if it ends up being the only Minilife thing you see, I want it to be a good a good resolution for just the story within.
Yeah, definitely.
So trying to do that, it is very it's been very challenging and very it's been a fun challenge, but it's been very interesting. And I'd say the biggest shift I had to learn is I feel like for all the past seasons of Minilife, I was mostly writing like for plot, and I was always just kind of coming up with like, oh, this is an interesting idea, it'd be fun to do this. And then when I started writing the film, I realized like, oh no, you gotta, it's characters. The characters gotta influence everything. Every decision has to be, you know, sort of cause and effect.
Hmm.
Every scene a character wants something, and like it's like, what are they doing in the scene to try to get it? So that's been like a big thing for me. And yeah, I'm trying to, that's what I'm really trying to do. And yeah, I've even been like, since I've taken on that approach, I like study, like when I'm watching a show or a movie, I'm kind of studying, like seeing, I'm kind of like studying the writing and seeing
Hmm.
like what information are they giving us in this scene, and it's been very fun. So yeah, I guess that's my current writing
Yeah,
process. Just
well, that's
trying to
good. I
keep the
feel like
characters.
I feel like that's a common for like learning writers, amateur writers. It's got to be a common trend. Especially people who start when they're younger. When I started, with the Lego Zombie Apocalypse, it was 100% impulse. Like, oh, what should happen next? Oh, what should happen next? And where should
Yeah.
that go? And all, it was just like stream of consciousness, basically. Um, but then as you advance, you come to realize, okay, there's why is good stuff actually really good? So yeah, I watched so many YouTube videos on like story and familiarized myself. When I was in probably early college, I got obsessed with the hero's journey. And so I read like Joseph Campbell, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and just I got really into myth and the structure of mythological stories.
Yeah.
And so, for the Void War, it's definitely kind of myth-like in its structure. Say even with season 2, I kind of had that. It's almost an Arthurian King Arthur. Like he finds a sword. He goes on this. They go on a quest, and so that was big inspiration for me. But it goes so much deeper than just the structure of the story. Dialogue, the beginning and end of every scene. Characters getting what they want, like you mentioned. It's a there. There's an infinite amount to learn and infinite room for growth and improvement with the writing. So it's quite a process.
Yeah, yeah, the thing I've been realizing with this new current draft that I'm doing is um at every scene I look at like, okay, so where's this scene starting and where is it going? Like where is it taking us to the next point? And once I figure that out, like once I know where we're going, then it's a lot of, then I realize I can have like a lot of fun, like because there's so many avenues you could take to get there. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like yeah, it's like basically, yeah, you got your point A and you got your point B, and then you got any direction you want to take. to
Hmm.
get there. And as long as it's all clear and concise, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. But then
Yeah.
you got to sneak character development in there in between and have this just like try to have these themes that exist both in the miniature in every scene and every line of dialogue, but also on the macro level where it's like kind of throughout the story you see it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I was-
It's like, it's kind of like a song. You got,
yeah.
yeah, you got a beat, and then but you can't have the same beat just throughout. Otherwise, it's a boring song. You have to have it
Hmm.
go away and then come back again. And then
Yeah.
that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah. That's a great metaphor. So,
So yeah, but I've really been I try to think about the audience. And as I've been writing the movie, I'm trying to really think about like, what it's like for, just people watching this who are not me. They don't have everything in their head that like I do. So it's like, what do they need to know? What might they enjoy? What can I do in this scene to make it fun? And like when I say fun, I don't mean like being funny, but like, make it interesting. Like you could
yeah.
have like a, like a really intense battle or something, or a really intense dialogue. That's not funny at all, but it can be very interesting and compelling. So
How can you make them not want to look away from the screen?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's yeah, it's I'm quite curious. Have you so you're obviously working on the script uh and you've collaborated quite a bit. Have you sent the script out to, different people or writer friends and been like, "Hey, what do you think?" Or is it more kind of just thinking about it in your own head and trying out new things?
Uh, let's see. Well, when I started the script a few years ago, um, I actually had some regular Skyping sessions with Thomas Evans, Forlorn Creature.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he helped me a lot, just like throwing ideas around and stuff. But with this new draft, I changed a lot of things in the plot, and mostly like the villain and everything, because I realized, um, and this is what helped me to realize I needed to rewrite the film, was when I would be telling friends or new people that I meet, it would be very hard for me to explain everything that's happening that happens in the movie, like, telling them the general plot.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And then I reworked things. I came up with a more direct and easy thing to understand. uh yeah, I wish I could tell you, but I don't want to spoil anything.
It's all good.
But after I did that, I've been telling friends and new people that I meet, and they're able to get it like right away. They're like,
Mm.
oh, yeah, no, I followed all that. Yeah, it's really cool. I was like, oh, okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool. I feel like I'm on the right path now.
Yeah. The log line or the elevator pitch makes more sense. It's more cohesive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like you should be able to say it in just a few sentences.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I was really trying to get down to.
Yeah.
And yeah, so far I really like the new direction that I'm taking.
That's good. I know I sent out, so I had it like almost an entire script written and I sent it out to a few people. Well, I had my whole team of just like high school friends who voice acted in my originals, Matt, Adam, and Chris, just high school buds of mine. But then there's also just people I've met online who started off as just fans of the show, but kind of offered their skills. There's Jack Bauer, who's done a lot of like fan art for me. And then another one named Sonny. And so Sonny is just a guy who's like, hey, so I'm into film. I love writing. If you ever want any help with writing, let me know. I was like, oh, that's an interesting offer. I might take you up on it. I asked him like, so what do you think about like where should season 2 go, or what did you think of it? And gave some like really solid advice that like made me think. So I was like, all right. So I sent him the script um, to the movie and was like, what are your thoughts? And between him and all the others, like it's the ending changed completely. Basically, split the movie into two parts, and I'm so glad I did because like there was a romance that would have just moved way too fast to make sense. It would have just been obnoxious. There's like the climax. It's just, it would have been just really stupid pacing. And so it's like, hindsight is 2020, of course, but it really helps to get more than one head in the game.
Yeah. I feel like talking with people, throwing ideas around is the best way, because you can get like caught up in your own head,
Yeah.
and to the point where like you don't know anymore. It's like, is this even good? I have no
Yeah.
idea. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's the input you get from other people is invaluable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm curious, like, how do you approach, writing a season, because like it is, especially because like yours is more plot driven than, I've
Yeah.
like dabbled in that, but yours has always been kind of like, so I'm curious, like, how to, like, when you finish a season, how do you get started on the next one?
That's a good question. It's as I mentioned, the first season was pretty much stream of consciousness, but the second season I took an entirely different approach where I tried to write like a summary of every episode. What would happen in every episode, just main kind of points, and just that allowed me to have things that happen in episode 9 that were connected to things that happened in episode 2 or 3 in a meaningful way. And of course I didn't really have that in season 1, except for stuff that I just made up along the way that I made sense in hindsight. I just kind of put the pieces in a way that made sense. But season 2 was very episodic. It still wasn't written as a movie. So the Void War season 3, tech you could call it, um, it's the first time I've actually written something as a movie. And it's really interesting because that is very different, and as I'm sure from writing things in an episodic kind of manner. There's just such more intention with I guess the pacing, but also like how the scenes fit into each other. I mean, there's no time to waste, and it has to have a certain flow to it. Cutting, like deciding when you cut from, like, I'm sure, in your movie, you probably have multiple characters going in different storylines at once, or maybe you don't. I'm not going to make assumptions, but when you have multiple stories happening at once, when should you cut from one to the other? When does it make sense? And I mean, you still have to take that into account when doing things through episodes, but it seems like you have to be much more careful with it when working on what's going to be a 90-minute feature-length experience for the viewer.
Yeah. I'll one thing I will say about the movie is, it has a lot of characters, a lot of new characters in it, and one of the things I've been conscious of, with this new draft going forward is, it's something that I got from a video that I watched on Star Wars: A New Hope, where that talked about how, in that film, there's also tons of characters and things that you're introduced to in this crazy fantasy world. But what like George Lucas did was, like, every character comes on screen when like they are needed, or like when like they're introduced when it's their time, like in the plot, like when it makes sense. And so that's something I've been doing too, is like, every character is introduced when it's a good time for them in the film, or like when, like when they are important in the plot.
Yeah, that's, again, you obviously you can't be willy-nilly with when you introduce characters just at any given point. You have to be very intentional about it.
Yeah.
I was curious. I did want to ask, again, this is kind of rewinding a little bit, but you're talking about like working with other people, collaborating with writers. If I remember correctly, you've worked with Forest Fire and Sean Willits in person, right? Or you've met them, or am I wrong?
I've met them. It was a few years ago now. I didn't really work with them other than that, the video that Forrest was like kind of the director on, for Digital Wizards. It was a recreation of the trailer for that Pixar movie, The Good Dinosaur.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but even then I didn't see Forrest much on that because Paul was kind of directing that.
Okay.
But yeah, I've hung out with them a couple times. In fact, I when I was shooting season 5, I was in the middle of one episode and I was having problems with my camera because my camera was getting kind of old and the shutter locked up.
Mm.
So I had to take it to the shop, and while I was in the middle of shooting, so Sean loaned me his camera, so I drove to Forrest and Sean's place and picked up the camera, and then
Okay.
did some shooting, and then brought it back to them.
That's pretty cool, man. Cause so you're all in LA right now, right? Or
Um, I'm pretty sure, yeah, Sean still lives in LA. Forrest, he kind of always moves back and forth.
mm,
He moves back and forth between his where he's from and then back to LA. He's done it like a few times, so I don't know where he is right now.
it's interesting because I was thinking about this the other day. I have never met a single person in my life, like who I've spoken with face to face, who does stop motion animation. Not one. And it's like it's tough because it's cool to like collaborate with brick filmers and communicate with them.
Yeah,
But it's like you wish there was more in-person engagement in some way. At least me personally, living in the middle of freaking North Dakota, there's not a lot of options there. Not a lot of brick film festivals or anything like that. But
I know. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to like a Lego convention or something because I see like sometimes brick filmers say that they're going to be going to one, but like I've always been too busy with other things to be able to go or travel there. But
nice.
but yeah, like yeah, one of my uh closest friends, closest and far because he lives far away,
Mm.
but we become very good friends. Alex Pearson, AKP Studios.
Oh yeah.
Um, we uh we became friends just like through Skype and stuff,
Mm.
and we're both like big lovers of Star Wars, so we're like we bonded over that.
Yeah.
And then eventually he was visiting California once, so we got to meet up, and it happened to be around the same time that the Lego Movie 2 was coming
Oh,
out, so we
very
saw
nice.
that together.
It's
and
poetic.
yeah, it was really cool to hang out with him, and yeah, we're still very good friends. Yeah, he's in Canada right now.
Hmm.
Because he actually he does less brick film stuff now because he's actually working as like a VFX artist.
He made it.
Yeah, he went to school for it, and now he's working, and yeah, sometimes he can't talk to me about stuff because it's like stuff he's working on,
Mm,
which is cool.
that is. That is awesome. I know you were, interested in voice acting. Are you doing any work on any projects there outside of Minilife, or I guess what are you kind of up to with that?
Yeah, I'm actually like I'm just about to contact my old teacher to schedule my first voiceover to get my demo done.
Nice.
Um, yeah, my teacher, his name is Richard Horvitz. He was the voice of like Invader Zim,
Oh my
Billy on
gosh.
Billy and Mandy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a wonderful teacher. And I'm gonna have him do my animation demo. So yeah, I just saved up enough for that.
Yeah, dude.
So yeah.
Best
Uh,
of luck.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm
Good.
excited to start on that. That's like a whole nother journey, you know.
Yeah.
I got my movie, and then I got trying to be a voice actor. A lot of big things going after.
Yeah. But we're still young and we got lots of time. So it's just a matter, that's the thing. I can't remember if you guys talked about this on your podcast with on World of Brick Films, but in the Bricks in Motion documentary, I think it's Jay Silver who says something about he realized like 2 years later, he's like, if I had started that movie I wanted to 2 years ago, it would have been done by now. Or he says something like that, and it's like that's kind of the mindset you have to just have going into massive projects like a feature length brick film is like, all
Yeah.
right, when I look back, 2, 3, 5 years from now, and I have this thing done, how good is that going to feel? Rather than, just deciding, it's too much work getting there and being like, wow, I could have had a whole movie by now. It's you just got
Yeah,
to make the commitment to live the lifestyle every day.
I sure didn't think that I would like by this point not have started shooting it, the Minilife movie, like based off like when I started writing the script, which was 2017. Um, but I'm really glad that I took so much time to try to really focus on the thing, because like it is very serious to me to try to, like it's my first animated film, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to, as much as fun as I want to have making it, I'm also, it's very serious to me to try to like actually make it like worth something.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, like you said, plenty of time. Again, like music, when people, like if a musician plays music, it's not to get to the end of the song.
That's
Otherwise all the best musicians would be the fastest players. It's the doing of it itself that's important. You play music to play. So, and
yeah.
that's why, you know yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Absolutely. It's the creative act itself, that and I think that's important. Yeah, it takes some mindfulness to just enjoy every part of the process, and be like, actually take real joy in animating things that are impressive, not just zooming past the dialogue, but doing like an engaging, head movements or hand, whatever it is, but things that are fun to watch and that really kind of evoke a sense of being alive. But sometimes that can, sometimes it gets a little tedious, but you can work through those and find gratitude in the process if you try.
Yeah, as long as you like take a breath and remember like why you're doing it,
Yeah.
and as long as you remember to have fun. In fact, that's one of the things that my teacher Richard Horvitz, he would always, whenever in class after we're done recording, he always asks like, did you have fun? Did you feel like you could have more fun? And then often in class, like the answer is yes, because like, so especially voice actors, we get in our heads of like, how we sound and stuff. And his teachings are very much just about like remembering like why you're doing it, which is just to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna be worrying about, you're gonna be getting in your head about like, oh, I'm not good enough to be playing this character and all that stuff. But like, yeah, he just reminds you like yeah, you're here to have fun. Like if you're going out for an audition, and you don't get it, and that's fine. It's not the end of the world. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
other auditions, and yeah, and it's the same thing with anything else. Like like I know like the film I'm making, at the end of the day, if nobody likes it, which I feel like people, I hope people will. But at the end of the day, if nobody liked it, then I would just move on and make another film.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? Having some fun and getting things done.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. I don't know why they didn't come to me.
On that note, again, Minilife is so great, and it's so obvious that it was about having fun, the entirety of the show. But just before we move on to like the brick film picks, I wanted to talk about. There are just a few one-liners in your show that just made me laugh, and they even like going back to like season 2. There's one. I'm just gonna go through them because they're so freaking funny. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but the one where they're in like a waffle shop or an IHOP, or they're getting breakfast and they're having an argument about the waffles, and or Ian says something like, well, F me, Chris, I'll never doubt you about waffles again. Is that our gay friend Chris or something like that?
Hey, friend Todd. Yeah.
Todd, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's just such a sharp 180. It's just like, oh, that's funny. And then Todd is a
Yeah.
great character too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really enjoyed him.
Yeah. Me and Ian are kind of embarrassed by that swearing. That was like after we did that, we realized like, yeah, that doesn't really fit for us.
And that I hate, personally, that was one of the things that made it so funny for me because just
Yeah.
came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, well, that is also why we did that, because like we hadn't
yeah.
done it before and it just cracked us up.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah, after that we did make a conscious choice to be like, yeah, I don't think we need to swear. And in
Keep it
fact,
more PG.
we came up with our own swears now, like 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 we say like oh bricks instead of
Yep.
like oh
Yep.
shit. And
You were very clever with the not to build my own bricks, that whole expression. I was like, that's good.
yeah, yeah, I have a whole little I have like a little note file of
Yeah.
like of mini life swears and like what they actually mean in real life. So
Yeah.
and occasionally we get ideas for new ones and we just add to the list. And so if I ever need a character to swear, then I just draw on that.
Yeah. I kind of did a similar thing. So with the Void War, it's just they're sci-fi futuristic horror. And I want it to be really dark and intense, but I also want it to be something that like 13-year-olds can watch and their parents are cool with it. But and I was like, well, I can't just drop like F-bombs in this thing. And I got to try to limit the other swears. So,
Yeah.
but fortunately it's a sci-fi futuristic thing. So I can just make words up that makes sense. And, instead of like the F word, the placeholder is basically muck. And it makes sense in this universe because they're constantly fighting these creatures that are basically muck monsters. And then, so the monsters are called slag. So there's all sorts of little insults like you son of a slig, just like little things that kind of make sense in this universe. And you're like, oh, that's a swear word, but it doesn't alarm any parents.
Yeah. I think that like fake swears are more fun than real swears.
Yeah.
In a weird way, it just adds to the lore of your own world.
Yeah.
Like that, they do that in Star Wars too. Like in The Mandalorian, he goes like "Think Ferric,"
Yep.
which is
Yep.
just nonsense, but it's like you hear the way he says it and you know that it's a swear.
Yeah. You get it. A couple more quick quotes from Minilife that I thought were really funny. One was, oh, another one of the running jokes that I absolutely loved was Gosh,
Oh
their
gosh.
god Goshua.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not God, I'm Gosh. That was just so simple yet so funny. But when Chris says, Ian, do you like something bad is happening? And he says, Ian, do you think this is because we started that prank war with God? Like, that is a great line.
Ian wrote that episode. Yeah.
Oh, that was a good one. And then there's the scene. It was a flashback of Abel, and there's the dude who's like selling the fruits and veggies,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
Abel just wants to buy one or two, but the guy is telling him he has to buy a whole pack, and then he just grabs two and leaves some coin, and yeah, stop that kid. He's trying to buy reasonable amounts of food for a fair price. It was like so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. That. Yeah. I actually. Yeah. I really liked that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one. Oh, there's one that I never seen anyone mention, but it's one of my favorite jokes, which is because like we're always bagging on Wilkins.
Yeah.
So in the first episode of season 5, when Chris and Ian and Wilkins are trapped in the mall with the ghosts and Snowball and Archie outside with the police, uh Snowball says like you have to open up the mall. Our friends are in there. And then Archie beeps and Snowball says, "Oh right, and a man named Wilkins."
That was hilarious. That was another one that made me pause. I was like, that was very good. And a man named Wilkins. And it's also one of those things that's like it was completely unnecessary for the plot. It's like, oh yeah, they had to show that Snowball's concerned about his friends in the mall. But then there's just this adding this extra little bit to just like bash on Wilkins. I thought it was hysterical.
Yeah, well, like I mean the fact that Archie it was the fact that it was Snowball and Archie is what made it funny to me, because Chris and Ian are always bagging on
Yeah.
Wilkins, but I I like the idea that because Snowball is like he's the sweetest character that we have, but I like the idea that even is he doesn't like Wilkins that much,
Yeah.
or like he just finds him to be a little off.
Yeah. Come on in. um Yeah, there's something that's really fun about having a character that everyone hates who really doesn't deserve to be hated.
Yeah, yeah.
You see it in a lot of stuff.
Me and Ian, we're huge fans of Scrubs,
Oh yeah.
and there's I forgot his name, but he's this character who he's basically like the hospital lawyer that just everyone always hates. I think his name was Ted,
Huh.
and and yeah, everyone just like always bags on him, but he's just like doing his job. But he's also kind of just like kind of a spineless guy, and I feel like those are the funniest, especially with Wilkins being our program coordinator, which is basically just like our agent and he's like our everything. He
Yeah.
handles everything that we don't want to deal with, all the business stuff.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of him being in charge of Chris and Ian, who are very childish, but then like he's very meager and he doesn't have
Yeah.
like he tells us what to do, but we're gonna ignore him.
Yeah. He's like the Toby of the show.
Yes. That another influence.
Well, we better get to our brick film picks. I know that I got to hit the road before too long, but I want to make sure we talk about those.
Right. Before we do you mind if I go to the restroom really quick?
Not at all. I'll pause the
Drink a bottle.
recording. It's all good.
Yeah, you can just cut this part out. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. I got about 10 minutes here, but I did definitely want to talk about our brick film picks. It's really funny. You picked I'll Never Be Lonely Again by Sanjira, and I was actually going to pick that. I had it like I watched it and I was like, okay, this is the one, but I'm just gonna wait to see what he picks. And then you picked that one. I was like, well, that's perfect actually.
Yeah.
But
I was almost worried that you might pick it for some reason. Like I had that idea. So I was like, oh, I better pick if I'm picking this, I better email him fast so he doesn't pick it.
It's like the pinnacle of Lego abstract. To me, I find it horrifying. It truly unsettles me on it at a deep level.
Yeah, it is like unsettling, but also like I don't know, there's something about just like the tactile nature of it all and like the weird visuals that I find very like appealing and very like I don't know, I enjoy looking at it, which is weird
Yeah.
because it is very disturbing, but also like I don't know, there's some part of my brain that really enjoys it.
Yeah. I think tactile is a good way to put it. And it's such physical comedy horror, like this butt thing, this sentient butt creature. But not only that, like it's the entire world of Sanjira's films. It's like something out of a nightmare. You have this weird house in the middle of this what looks like Mars landscape. You've got this floating worm thing that just kind of hovers there and looks really gross and menacing, but it just kind of hovers there. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's so bizarre. And then the commercials are complete insanity. And honestly, do you ever watch Rick and Morty?
I've seen a few episodes here and there. Yeah.
Did you ever see the interdimensional cable episode?
Oh yeah, with all just the different channels from
Yeah,
different
it
universes.
felt like you're watching internet interdimensional cable with this one.
Yeah, that's what I love about his whole style is just it's so unique and so different from, like the very like normal like rigid way that you would expect a brick film. Because I feel like there's a sort of like blanket way of like how brick film should be, or at least the idea of how brick film should be that kind of went out into like the brick filming community. When again, like really you can do anything you want with it. And that's something like I barely have been realizing, and that's why I wanted to like come up with my own style. But
Yeah,
he's like so good at it, and I find his stuff really inspiring. Just like the how he's able to just do his own thing
yeah,
and yeah, I think another reason they're enjoyable is you watch them and you can tell that he's having fun with it. Like
yeah,
as weird and horrific as some of the stuff is, there's a level of like cheekiness to it.
yeah, yeah. He's an interesting dude. I like listening to interviews with him. He is just so expressive. It's and so fun. And obviously you hear it in just the writing and the voice acting. Like the commercial, so over the top. It's like he's yelling about how you have to just take this thing and you'll never be lonely again. And then he's like, "Bye now,
Yeah,
bye
I know.
now."
Yeah, it reminds me of like Ren and Stimpy,
Yeah, yeah,
just like
God,
way extreme over the top. And yeah, there's some that kind of stuff is like very it's hilarious just because it's so over the top.
yeah. And I feel like I legitimately can say that watching that one in particular, I'll never be lonely again, evokes both an existential dread and glee within me. It's like it's just a ride.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. By the end of it, you're like you're not really sure what to you're just kind of sitting there just kind of processing it all.
Yeah.
You're not really sure what to
Yeah.
do.
It's like, well, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And also, can we just talk about the finance correspondent Lon, who shows up at the end, and his head, he looks like Nosferatu, and his head comes through the screen, and then he
Yeah,
freaking eats
I
the
know.
news people in a bloody mess.
Yeah, when that was I was like, what is going on? This I feel like I'm on a drug trip or something.
Yeah, honestly, it was like turn the acid off now. Let's be done with this.
Yeah, yeah. It just somehow it's that it starts crazy, but then it just like it keeps going and it goes. You never know where this is gonna go,
Yeah,
and it's just a weird, delightful ride.
yeah. And I guess I didn't even mention to people listening, we kind of the theme for this week's picks was abstract, and this movie just like it's as abstract as it gets. And I
Yeah,
wasn't
I
sure
think
if
Sanjiro is the king of abstract.
he truly is. Definitely hope to interview him one time. I would love to pick his brain a little bit, but I feel like so my pick, I picked Keshin's Clickbot, The Maze, which you know, in hindsight, I was watching it and I was like, is it fair to call this a brick film? Because the main characters are composed of a Clickbot toy and Rubik's cubes, basically. But the entire environment is brick film, and it really has the energy of a brick film. So I thought it counted, and maybe the non-Lego elements just kind of count for the abstraction element.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I hadn't seen it till you sent it to me. Yeah, I have some familiarity with Stickbot because my friend Alex, he did some videos for them, so
Mm,
I've seen his stuff, and yeah, it's very like they look like robots, but they don't sound like robots.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I don't know what they're supposed to be exactly, but yeah, this was very well animated and very it was very interesting, sort of like you wake up trapped somewhere and then you got to figure out where you're going. And I loved the cube things
Yeah,
and the
so
pyramid. Right, it reminded me of like a Zelda boss or
mm,
enemy. And
yeah,
yeah, it was very cool. Yeah, it the abstract part I guess would say is like you don't know what's Lego or what's not, or
yeah,
and yeah, and then I guess also like figuring out what's going on, right?
yeah. You don't know what's coming around the corner. I grew up obsessed with the movie The Labyrinth.
Mm,
And so the idea of being trapped in a mystical maze where you just things you can't explain are going to happen next. And this one was less mystical, more sci-fi. But The Labyrinth, I think it built a love of maze movies for me, which I mean, I've only watched the first Maze Runner movie, so maybe it's a little hypocritical, but the whole idea of it really is enticing to me. And Keshin is just he's really good at obviously the visual aspect of it and the story's fun, but his sound design is it's just the sound is so rich and is so deep. It's like the sentries when they're moving, it's like, well, that is some heavy machinery, even though they're plastic toys, of course. So I thought that was very good.
yeah, he's good. He's really good at giving a real weight to things.
Yeah.
He's very skilled at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, action sequences are definitely his strong suit.
Yeah. No, he's a legend for sure. But well, Chris, I know that we could talk for hours, and I hope we can do this again sometime. But I gotta hit the road, so we better wrap this up. But I guess, do you have any last things you want to say? Any last teasers or words of inspiration to aspiring brick filmers?
Oh boy, that's really putting me on the spot. No, it just yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it was good to catch up with you for after so long.
Yeah,
And yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for giving us a shout out when the last Minilife Chronicles came out, because we got some more traffic for that. So
absolutely.
that was really cool of you.
Of course,
Um,
man. I
but
definitely look forward to collaborating with you, and in the future, and whatever ways we can think of with our each unique paths. You did some voice acting for me for the movie, and I don't even know if I told you, but you did it. You voiced a character called Gideon, and I really liked it, and I'm going to be using that one. So I'll talk to you more about that later.
okay, yeah,
But
yeah. I guess for all the brick filmers, or even just any artists listening out there, yeah, just do what's delightful to you, and then yeah, just just do what you like to do. That's all you got to do.
have some fun and get things
Have,
done, right?
have fun, get things done. You know the drill.
You know the drill. All right. On that note, thanks again so much, Chris. Always a pleasure. And I'll
Yep.
talk to you next time.
All right, later.
Take care.